Okay, so we got Kurt Cymerint. I'm trying to find a way to frame you and I'm not going to do it accurately because I know that you are one of, if not what I would say, the highest level entrepreneur that I've ever met. That I've had the pleasure of knowing for 8 years now. What is it? I mean, it's a long time.
Yeah, about
8 years, something like that.
Yep.
And so I got to see the journey along the way, and I've seen a ton of business people in my career, worked alongside of them, um, and you're probably the best I've ever seen. And so I don't know how to quantify that because I want the listeners to understand of like, hey, no different than if you were in the presence of an NBA basketball player, but now an all-star on the NBA. But do you know what I mean? It's like that caliber. And I know you're too humble to admit all these things, but like that's what I want the audience to hear. So if you don't mind, that's the frame, and maybe you can introduce yourself a quick 1 or 2 minute segment on this.
Well, just so all of your listeners know, you are the Michael Jordan of what you do. So I'm going to
Thanks,
push it
man.
back over to you. No, Kurt Cymerint, I would first and foremost always like to say, loving husband, loving father, been married for coming up on 13 years, have 3 kids, 9, 7, and 5, love of my life. Also, run a highly successful mortgage company in Orange County, been in the industry for just over 20 years now. As crazy as that sounds, makes me feel old. But I've been in the industry for 20 years. And yeah, I've had a ton of success along the way.
So for the listeners who don't understand, let's say, or don't know the mortgage market, what is a good way we can quantify sort of the hierarchy? Is it loan volume? Is that a good metric to use of saying, okay, in the mortgage market, we can look at a heuristic like loan volume. What do you think your typical loan originator starts out in terms of loan volume for the year? Just rough heuristic. Or for the month, whatever you think.
I think it's a good guess. I think it's a good question. And I think, not to overcomplicate it, but there are different segments of the mortgage industry. So you'll have a retail loan officer that works with realtors, and that's typically a little bit less loan volume, right? They do larger loan amounts, bigger transactions. There is the direct consumer space. That's what I operate in. So oftentimes you work at a company where you're getting provided leads, so you do more loans, whether that be purchase, whether that be refinance. So back to your question, in my particular corridor, which is the consumer direct world, you started a mortgage company, depending on, let's say you have no experience, you started out today. You'd started a mortgage company, you would hope that you would get training, you'd hope that you'd get tools, and you'd hope to be in a position to start funding, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and upwards of loans per month. And I would say, again, in the consumer direct space, working for a company, I would say that a top performer is someone who is funding consistently over about 10 loans per month.
Got it. And then if you're okay with this, so let's say those 10 loans, what would they add up to in, let's say, total loan amount in terms of dollars?
Depends on the company. I would say some larger companies, their average loan amounts are about $200,000. My company, our average loan amount's closer to about $330,000, I'd say. It just depends on what states you operate in.
Okay, so we're now have a frame of a really good loan officer starting out as a single loan officer would close about 10 loans a month, around $200K per loan, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
If we had to look at your company's loan volume and production in a single month, what are we looking at?
Right now, we're funding about $125 million per month.
Yeah. So the reason I'm saying that is think about that for the listeners listening. The scale, right? Back to the Michael Jordan of the industry, right? If we're just housing this in look at the scale of success that you've been able to produce in your space, it's off the charts. Absolutely off the charts. And then also to your point, because I'm lucky enough to call you a friend, that holistic success that you were implying earlier is 100% true, right? You've been able to do this, at least from my perspective, scale to be a very large company in this space, but do it and still coach, I think, all of your kids' sports teams, basically.
Yeah.
Right? Your wife, no matter how many times I get her to try to talk poorly about you, she never does. It's always singing your praises. Everybody that I know loves you. And I know that you're not going to say any of those things, but pulling off that holistic success while still having an incredible amount of business success, because a lot of people say, oh, okay, I'm holistically successful. It's like, yeah, but you make $30,000 a year. I mean, like, and that's not a slight. That's not the same game that you and I are trying to play like a super high level business game, but also be there for our friends and our family. And you've pulled it off. How do you do that?
I think it's a matter of just the willingness and want to be able to do it. I think there's a lot of folks that I've come across that like to talk a lot and things that they want to do, and they just are unable to get into action. I think that if you're obsessed with something and there's something that you want to do and you put a plan in place, anything's possible. I think if you want to run a business and also be a great dad and be a great husband and coach your kids, you can do those things. I think that the excuse is, well, I have to work. Don't you know how much I have to work? And I can't leave the office until then. My experience is while it creates definitely more stress trying to get out of the office and race to a field, I just have to work more efficiently.
Does that come down to, number one, intentionality, like actually intending to create a result outside of the office walls?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without the intent, there's no chance.
Yeah. And then the concept is not groundbreaking, but it's the magnitude. So it's like, yeah, work more efficiently. A lot of people understand that concept. It's like, yeah, but to what degree are you trying to work more efficiently? And maybe let's deep dive into that. How did you get from a place of, hey, I'm a single loan officer, right, to I need this machine to run? Like, give us an idea of how much that takes, because at a certain point that takes a lot of capital. I now have to take capital away from me and my family potentially, and instead of putting it back into the business to hire more headcount so that I can leave at whatever time it is to make sure I can coach my son's football game tonight.
Yep. I think it all comes down to, it's a great question. I think it all comes down to phases. Could I start my company today and put in the amount of hours that I need today and still do all the things that I'm doing with my family? Absolutely not. Wouldn't be possible. I think that, like I said, I got in the industry 20 years ago, and for me, my journey has been about different phases. The first phase was being a loan originator and wanting to be the best loan originator I could at my company. Then it was being a sales manager and then wanting to be the best sales manager I could be. Then it was learning as much as I could from some large companies and realizing there's probably a better way I could do this. And then it was, okay, how do I become a mortgage broker? Okay, I got the license. I went out, was going to do it on my own. Then it's like, oh, crap, how do I find leads? Right? How do I learn how to buy leads? And then from there, it was, okay, now I know how to buy leads. How do I build a book of business? Right? And then it was, how do I hire an employee? I don't even know. I remember calling an old mentor and I'm like, how do you pay someone? Like, how do you get, I remember when we first started printing checks, like I would print my employee's name on a check. It was like, we made it.
Yeah.
And it was, so there's been all of these different phases, but I would not be where I am today, nor would the company, if I was not highly involved in every single phase on the way up to where we are today. But each phase, what I've learned over the last, decade has been trusting in the right people so that I don't have to work 100 hours a week. I've done it. I've been there. But once I learned and achieved, what I wanted to the next level, I just couldn't do it on my own anymore. So making sure that I hired the right people was the appropriate step.
So let's dive into those phases. The way I've structured it in my mind is like, okay, phase one, what's the philosophy, what's the strategy, and what are the tactics? So phase one, how'd you get involved in this? Let's define that. Or phase zero, I think you were telling me off camera. So walk us through the phases and the philosophy, strategy, and tactics to the degree that you can articulate them.
Okay. So try to keep it as simple as possible. Phase zero is 19 years old, terrible neck injury, dove into a shallow pool, broke my neck. Whole long story for another day. But dove into I was selling timeshares, thinking I was going to get rich selling timeshares. One of your favorite stories.
Timeshare
great
guy.
Job, great company. But I was not achieving what my potential was at the time. But at 19, I had this big neck brace on, and I was referred to a mortgage company because I couldn't do my in-person, whatever timeshare job. And I found the mortgage industry. And the mortgage industry to me at 19 years old was amazing. You could put a headset on and you could talk to leads that came in or outbound dial and get homeowners on the phone and be able to make a very good living. So phase zero for me was I stumbled into I limped my way into the mortgage industry.
Are there pictures of this neck break?
Yeah. I'll get you some good content. But my first year in the mortgage industry, this was sort of the tail end of the subprime kind of boom or whatever. First year I worked in the mortgage industry, I didn't close a single loan. I worked at
the entire year.
The entire year.
Zero.
I worked at 3 companies, and they didn't really provide the training that I needed. I had no clue what I was doing. And I was going to go back to school after a year, and actually was referred to a company in Irvine named was Solstice Capital, phenomenal company. And I was going to give it one more shot. And in my interview, they said, we want young, hungry loan officers. We want you to forget anything you know about mortgages and do it our way. And in my head, I'm thinking like, I don't have a way, So I'm moldable, I'm coachable. Like I'm going to give this one more shot. And we went through 1 week of extensive training. I bought into everything they were saying. And within just a couple of weeks, I was one of their top loan officers. And I remember some of the veterans coming up to me and saying, hey man, you don't got to read that script anymore. And I'm like, dude, this works, right?
Yeah,
and they told me like,
Yeah.
stay coachable and learn it. So anyways, that's how I kind of stumbled into the mortgage industry. And then fast forwarding my journey, I was there, 2.5, just under 3 years. Loved this company, was their top loan originator, was their top sales manager. They ended up having a merger and acquisition with HSBC. My next venture was hearing about this company called Loan Depot that was starting, another phenomenal company. I was in their first training class of loan officers that were, hitting the floor running in the beginning of 2010. They were trying to find the best loan originators in Orange County that they could kind of build a foundation off of. And honestly, Wes, I loved it. I was their top originator for a few months. I was then their top sales manager for a few months. But the catalyst for me of what that kind of next step was, right? So it was like, how did you get into the mortgage industry? Got it. Phase one of kind of just being a loan officer, being a sales manager. I remember working at Loan Depot, and I can't say anything bad about them. Great company, been around forever, great leadership team. But I remember being a top sales manager and sitting in a Friday morning meeting, and I was exhausted. I was working 60, 70 plus hours a week. I remember looking at the sales director and the VP, the jobs I really wanted. And I saw these guys looked way more tired than I did. They looked super stressed. And I thought, I don't want that. I want to be able to, I don't know. I just wanted something different. And so what I decided to do at that time was, what's the next phase for me? And I quickly realized that in order to do something different, I'm going to become a mortgage broker. I feel like that's the next evolution. If I don't want to climb that corporate ladder, I want to become a mortgage broker. And I'd gotten a license years back. And I also, if I ever had a referral and I was working at one of these large companies, oftentimes those large companies, at least where I was at, wasn't the best place to do a referral at the time. So I would refer those friends and family or clients to a friend who was a mortgage broker. And I knew that there was just a little bit better of service. So I felt like, okay, if I can become a mortgage broker, I can provide that level of service, I can help my friends and family, and I can figure out what that next phase looks like. So again, I'm not going to give all the details of how I got there, but I ended up leaving Loan Depot on the best of terms. For me, I ended up getting a mentor because I knew nothing about running a business. So for any of your listeners, oftentimes we want to tell ourselves we can do it. We don't want to ask for help. Asking for help is a secret power. Finding someone who has what you want and then go do what they do, that's advice that was given to me over a decade ago that is some of the best advice I've ever been given. So I got this mentor. This mentor was a guy named Jeff. He had a very successful mortgage company in Lake Forest. Loved Jeff. And he told me, I'll teach you how to run a business. I'll teach you everything on the back end of business. Jeff had a corporate job for 10 years, I think at Procter & Gamble. And he knew how to run a business long before ever getting into mortgages. So he taught me everything I'd ever not learned in school of how to run a business. But he said, I don't do leads though. You got to figure out how to get your own leads. And that was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
My dream at first was, okay, I'm just going to go out. I'm going to get 10 realtors. I'm going to have 10 realtors. I'm going to show them how amazing I am. And they're all going to use me. I'm never going to have to buy leads. And I'm going to be a mortgage broker that golfs 3 days a week, even though I don't golf. But that's what I was going to do. And so, I quit Loan Depot. I got this little office in Lake Forest. I started going to these open houses and these broker previews. And I quickly realized that the realtors, A, they all had relationships with loan officers they'd worked with for years, which is totally fine. But B, they didn't care that last month at Loan Depot I'd funded 30 loans.
Right.
They said, hey, Kurt, send me an email. You sound good. And I had an ego problem, right? Like, I was like, do you know who I am, right? Like, I'm the top. They didn't. It was more challenging. So I realized I needed to buy leads. And I'd saved up $30,000 for this business. I threw up the 30 grand in the air and I bought as many leads as I could. I bought, for anybody that doesn't know mortgage industry, you can send people mail. You can do some radio ads. You can buy some internet leads. You can, I remember at the time I was engaged and Randy and I used to and we were stuffing envelopes. I created this announcement that I was now in the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
I was now a mortgage broker, rather. And I remember I have pictures of Randy and I with like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mailers and stuffing them and sending them out to our whole sphere of influence, all of our neighbors, just whatever I could do to get a deal, right? To start kind of generating some revenue. And Wes, I blew through. It took me from starting my business, right, underneath this guy, Jeff, and having him be my mentor. It took me, I want to say, at least 3 months before I got a single yes. And that 30 grand was literally down to like 2.
Yeah.
And I remember literally down to 2. And I remember being in tears like a couple of the nights and telling Rand, like, I may have to go back to Loan Depot with my tail between my legs.
Yeah.
This is way harder than I thought. And I'll never forget, one of the leads that I got in was a homeowner, a guy named Tim. I'll leave his last name off just for confidentiality. This guy Tim calls in and he's like, nobody can help me. I've been denied by 10 lenders. And at the time, there was this guideline. You couldn't finance someone who had more than 5 properties. Okay. You could only do someone that had 4 finance properties.
Okay.
And so we ended up I went to Jeff and I'm like, gotta help this guy. And so we took cash out on a refinance. We took 1, 2, 3, 4, a little bit of cash out from all 4 of his homes, paid off the 5th, and saved him like thousands of dollars a month. And so my first deal, my first transaction, being self-employed as you will, was 4 deals. They call that a 4-pack in my industry. And what do you know? The next day I came in, I got another one. And the next day I came in, I got another one. And it was just, I needed a win. I needed some momentum, right? And so I then was hyper obsessed with Jeff for a couple of years of how do I learn as much as I can? How do I build a book of business? I kept spending money on leads. And what was different for me that I think a lot of originators was every homeowner I did a loan for, I let them know that I was new. I was starting a business. I was going to close their loan in industries average 45 days. I'd close their loan in half that time. They wouldn't have to speak to 5 other people during the process. I'm the only one they're going to talk to. And I'm going to do such a good job that at the end of the refinance or home purchase, I'm going to ask them to refer me some friends and family. And I was hyper obsessed with, if I do this and I am focused and I start getting referrals after a couple of years, I don't want to buy leads anymore. Spending 10, 20 grand a month is not cheap. And so, yeah, I did that, Wes. I was in this one-man office in Lake Forest before we had kids. I mean, I'm working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Like I'd get there at 6 a.m. and I'd work all day and I'd get off at 6 p.m. and every Saturday working for a few hours. But I loved it, and every month I was doing it, I kept funding more and more and more loans. And my marketing spend kept getting less and less and less because I started getting referrals. I did a great loan. I'll never forget a guy at SpaceX. He referred me like 24 employees at SpaceX. Like, you got to call this guy, Kurt, rates are low and he'll help you with the refinance. Did a loan for a fire captain, same story. And so I ended up just having these niche referrals. And I got to a point after a couple of years, I thanked Jeff for all the mentorship he gave me. And that's when I started my company. It was 2014. I officially went on my own to start Advantage First Lending, which was a whole different story and a whole different phase. And, the short version of that was the first 4 years of that business was really just me. I don't want to say cruising because I worked really hard, but it was me as a one-man loan originator. And my goal, Wes, candidly, was maybe one day I'd be able to have a company where I could have 5 to 10 of my best friends I knew in the industry, get a smaller office, everybody bring their dog to work on a Friday, and we'd all fund loans, and I'd give them all a super fair split, and it would just be the most amazing company to work at. That was the goal. That was the vision. But a lot of my friends were happy at the mortgage companies they were at. I was happy doing what I was doing. And so, yeah, I mean, up through 2014 to really 2018, really 2017, I'd say, it was just me, one-man originator. A couple onesie-twosie friends or past coworkers would hang their license with me. For me, though, there was a friend that I had met, a couple of friends. A very short story was a guy that I knew, and I didn't know this, was studying to take his mortgage licensing test to go work for another friend. And he passed his test, and he quit his job, and he called his friend and said, I passed my test, I'm ready. And this friend over here said, dude, I didn't tell you to quit your job.
Yeah.
And so this friend called me and said, hey, look, I'm not ready to take this guy on. Do you think you could help him? I'm like, I didn't want any employees, but I met with this guy, and he was hungry, and he was young, and he was already licensed. And I'm like, yeah, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And Wes, this guy, his name was Sean. Love him. He was phenomenal. I mean, he came over, and we worked together. I was training him. I started buying leads again. And after like a month of success, 2 of his friends came by. Random, they worked at Verizon, and they said, hey, we want what you did for Sean. Will you train us? And I'm like, dude, you guys should go to Loan Depot, right? This was a lot of work, get
Yeah.
trained. I'm like, no, we want what you did for Sean.
Yeah.
So I hired these guys, and then I ended up hiring an old-time friend who was going to come and help me manage these guys. He was a great sales trainer, great sales leader. And so the beginning of 2018, and then I hired a processor. Beginning of 2018, it was myself, 3 loan officers that couldn't even spell mortgage. There was a sales manager trainer who was, phenomenal at what he did, and a processor. We're like, we're going to go build a mortgage company. And I'll never forget beginning of 2018 interest rates skyrocket.
Yeah.
And I'm like, perfect. I started a mortgage company.
Yeah.
I started to grow at the worst time ever, but we got into purchases, we figured things out. And what I found was earlier on in those first 4 years of being on my own, the advice that I was given was always keep your overhead as low as possible. Don't hire anybody if you don't need to. Save your money, be resourceful, because that's why companies go out of business. And that was the belief system that I had in that phase.
Yep.
What I found was as I started growing, I remember a gal, Jess, she still works for me to this day, met her in 2018, because now I think I had hired 6 or 7 loan officers. And I was at a point now where I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. And one of the reps at a bank said, hey, this guy's retiring, his right-hand gal, Jess, she's been there 20 years. You should interview her. I remember sitting across from her like this thinking, I am not qualified to employ this gal.
Yeah.
And I was honest with her.
Yeah.
And she told me, I asked her what her desired salary range was. And I told her, I said, I can't afford you. But here's what I can do. And if you are who you say you are, like, we'll grow this thing. And I promise you, I'm more than fair your income will grow. And that was the largest single investment I'd ever made into an employee. And to this day, hiring Jess and what she's done with this organization, one of the greatest investments the company's ever made. She's as loyal, she's as brilliant, and that was my taste of, okay, holy crap. In this world and in business, you get what you pay for. And as I'm looking at where I really want to go now, I had some self-limiting beliefs. Hire my 10 homies and bring their dogs to the office. Like, I'm really interested in seeing where we can build this thing to. And so from Jess, it was like, okay, well, let's hire a couple of good processors. Okay, well, let's go hire a couple. I actually have something now. Let's go reach out to a couple of really good loan officers that I'm friends with. And so, from 2018, really up and through past COVID, and from 2018 through beginning of 22, the business phase that I was in was grow and scale. And at some point in that phase, I think it was around 2019, you had actually ended up introducing me to my mentor, business mentor. I remember you coming by my office and telling you like, hey, there are some days, Wes, I think at that time I'd probably had 30 employees, maybe 40 employees.
Yep.
I said, there's some days I wish I had a boss.
Yeah.
Like I don't. And you said, hey, let me introduce you to an old time client of ours, and he could be a mentor. And that was some of the most game-changing information. I mean, that changed my life.
Awesome.
Truly.
Awesome.
And what that mentor had told me is, you got to learn how to work on your business. Every day you're in your business. I was still, at night after everybody left, I was still taking calls. I was still doing my referrals. And he said, you got to figure out what you want to be. Do you want to be a loan originator? I know it's comfortable you've been doing it 13 years. Or do you want to give those leads to some of your top loan officers? You'll still get paid on it, but you can actually focus on the business. And looking back at my trajectory, that was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make. But there is absolutely no way humanly possible that we would be where we are today if I was still a loan officer,
right?
An originating broker owner. Do I still do loans? Of course. Occasionally I love to help out and do loans where I can. But at that time, it was a pivotal moment for me to be able to remove myself from that, give those leads. My staff was so grateful. Hey, John from the fire department wanted to do a purchase with me. Go talk to Timmy. He's my best loan officer, and he can help you. And I'm available every step of the way. And what I found was Timmy was happy. Timmy did a great job, and I had more time, right? So, phase 0, phase 1, I originated. At that time when I was originating, I was a top 1% originator in the nation. Then we started hiring. And I went from that 2018, that, small office with 5 employees to, up through 2022 when rates, really tripled what it felt like overnight.
Yeah.
We went from 5 employees to at our peak, we had about 130 employees. We went from funding in 2018, I think we funded, I'll call it 100 million, maybe 120 million in loan volume. In 2021, just 4 years later, we funded $1 billion in loan volume. So it was a 10x growth in that 4-year window.
Yeah.
And there were some scary times through there, like, again, I'll speed up the story just to talk about those phases. But
yeah, no, please.
When COVID happened, Um, that was one of 3 of the scariest times I've had in having the business for 11 years because, I don't know if you know that, we were a mortgage broker. You talk about levels. Then I really wanted to, there were some constraints of being a mortgage broker. So I was told that you can become a lender. It's called a mini correspondent lender. You get your own warehouse line. You have a lot more control and a lot more flexibility. And that was just kind of the next level if I wanted to keep growing. So we did that. But I had, I don't know, $15 million of funded loans on my warehouse line. COVID happened. And there were talks from the investors I was working with that if any of your clients lose their jobs between when we fund your loan and the time it's purchased, there was a 2-week delta, we won't buy that loan. And pandemic happened, the world shut down. My wife and I, we had our youngest son on March 5th. The world shut down like 10 days later. And I remember like there were days on end where I wasn't sleeping. I was looking at like $7 to $10 million of homeowners that were at risk of losing their job. And I thought, I saw this when I first got in the industry. I'm going to lose it all.
Right. And
thank God I had some really good partners, some good investors. UWM, a great investor I worked with that were like, hey, we're going to stick by your side. And, we powered through that. But the flip side of that was right on the tail end of COVID, we saw mortgage interest rates drop to 2%?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd had a machine, I'd had a staff, and we went from funding, $300-400 mil a year to getting to that $1 billion rate, right? We achieved this, in my mind, this mecca of success.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were scaling in there, I also had a couple of employees that had worked there a really long time that decided that, Advantage First Lending wasn't what's best for them. I think, candidly, there was maybe some jealousy, maybe some greed on that end. And they decided to go start, which is totally fine. It's America, it's capitalism, but they decided to start their own company. And then they started coming after my employees. And then they started, that was one of the most scary times of my life because I love my employees. I love my staff. And I had this victim mentality, like, why is this happening to me? And I started getting sad, right? Like, I love these employees. But I realized employees are replaceable, and if somebody, I don't own an employee, and if somebody wants to go start their own thing or their own company, more power to them. I think it could have been handled a little bit more gracefully, but if loan officers or salespeople, whatever the position is, if they want to go work somewhere else, I need to look internally as to what I could be doing better because there's a reason why they don't want to work at my company anymore. So that was, again, a scary time, but I hunkered down. We hired new employees and newer staff, maybe not working with as many friends as I'd known my whole life and working with a team of individuals that I could really help grow and nurture. And the company, after that, did the best we've ever done. Until 2022 happened and interest rates, what I feel like went from 2% to 7%, almost overnight. And
the steepest ever in history, I believe. Yeah.
Ever. And I thought, because I was so good at mortgages and I was this amazing mortgage broker owner, that if I just spent more money on marketing, I'll be able to make it happen. And then the tsunami hit me right in the face and said, you are not invincible. And I kept looking at my P&L and, I look back from 2014, outside of almost blowing that 30 grand, I hadn't had a month where I'd ever lost money.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember April 2022, I got my financials on May 10th and I had lost, it's a fair number, safe place. Told you I want to get into numbers, but my P&L, I lost over $330,000 that month, just in April.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the math times 12, and I thought, I got to make a change.
Well, percentage-wise, you called me. Are you comfortable sharing the percentage? You said the percentage that you were down from a from a P&L perspective. What was that percentage, if you remember?
I don't remember from a P&L perspective, but I remember from a loan volume perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Our loan volume was cut over half.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the next month. I was looking at conversion. I was looking at projections. And I remember coming home to my wife, and Randy, Randy, she's brilliant. She's a 50% owner of our business. And, she's always behind the scenes. We're always, I just come home from work, dump it on her.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, babe, I love you. But maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. Because she looked at the happiness I had when I was just less stressed. One-man broker owner. She's like, you could do loans out of the garage, right? Like, and she was in the industry in 2006, 2007 and saw that all.
Yeah.
I worked so hard and we had a house, right? And I have all these personal guarantees. And I talk about that, right? Like, if the business goes under, I'm personally guaranteed for my warehouse line. It was a lot of fear.
And when she's saying maybe it's time to exit the business.
Time to shut the business down.
Yeah.
She's looking at the math the same as me, times it by 12. And if the business losses keep sustaining,
Right.
it didn't make sense. And I remember the next month, right, and the next month it just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
What I learned during that time, and it may sound callous to say or whatever, but Ron, my business mentor, had told me, you need to learn how to cut, and you need to learn how to cut fast. And I had 130 employees, and I loved 130 of them, maybe 129.
Yeah.
But I loved my staff, and they were my family. And I looked at it as the ultimate failure to lay people off. I never done a layoff before. I looked at it as I can't provide you an employment opportunity, so I suck. And I delayed that longer than I should have. And we did one round of layoffs, and it wasn't enough. And we did our biggest round of layoffs in October of 2022. And we went from, like I said, our peak was like 130 employees. And we went down, I think we had at our lowest 29 employees. And it was miserable.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to get that P&L in a position where I was losing. Even if I was losing, like I just want to get to even, right? It was like being at a blackjack table. It was like, I just want to get to even. But I wanted to get to a spot where it was sustainable. And Randy and I were on the same page that I've spent the last 8 years building this machine. And I went to my leadership team at that time and I said, hey guys, look, I don't want to lay any of you off. It's taken me 8 years to assemble this machine. Here's what I can pay you. I never cut anybody's comp. I was always raising people's comp. And thank God I have truly the best leadership team I'd put in the industry. You can talk about me being the Michael Jordan. This is the dream team, truly. And there are different subject matter experts in each of their realm. And I told them, we will get through this. This is what I can pay you during this time. And on the flip side of this thing, I promise you, everybody here will make more money than they've ever made before. But we have to get through this. And they all stayed. They stayed at significant reductions in compensation. And, the beginning of 2023 was 6 months survival. How do we figure out to do loans in this new world? And, in talking with my mentor, it was, okay, we need to kind of zig while the market is zagging. And what I mean by that is a lot of my opponents, as you will, or competitors or other mortgage brokers, I found that if you're going to do less loans, they wanted to jump more business into California or larger loan amount states. So I thought if we're not going to do as much loan volume, we might as well do bigger. I took the exact opposite approach. I added over a dozen state licenses in the Midwest and on the East Coast and thought, right now, the only way to help someone, people aren't buying houses. People can't lower their rate. And what I do is refinance business. People need cash out of their equity. Home values are at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. No one talks about the interest rates on those credit cards being out on an all-time high. But I felt that a huge differentiator was if someone has $1 million home loan in the state of California and their rate goes from 2% to 7%, their payment goes up so much. They just can't do it, even if it helps them pay off their debt. Mm-hmm. Where in, South Carolina, the average loan amount is $300,000. So if their interest rate goes from 2 to 7, but they're paying off 50, 60 grand in credit card debt, the payment shock wasn't all that much. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of success. So we lowered that average loan amount. We started doing a lot more units, even though they added up to less volume, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And then we found a couple of different lead sources that we tested. And I got Sam on my team. He looked at this data. And instead of looking at results 30 days, 40 days down the road, we started looking at results 2 to 3 days into any campaign. And for anybody that's doing any sort of marketing, the more data, the more optics you can put on that, the more analysis. I know you're an expert at data analytics, but having Sam in that role and having him being his best and, he would take data from all these disparate sources and he'd put them in a digestible format that him and I could sit down, or Tommy, my sales leader, and we could make decisions that were best for the organization. And we started having success when people weren't, beginning, middle of 2023. And Wes, since then, it's been slow and steady, and it's been an amazing journey back to where we are today. And, one or two things I didn't talk about was when we laid those folks off, all of a sudden now, the end of 22, I'm starting to get these letters in the mail from attorneys and lawsuits. And you didn't pay someone the proper meal break penalty or overtime. And I had a couple of employees that felt that I wronged them. And I went to an attorney and I didn't think I did anything wrong. I genuinely was running this business trying to do everything by the book. And it was painful. And I was ready to fight and show that I hadn't done anything. But some of those employees at the time were employees I took gambles on. Right? Maybe it wasn't the best cultural fit for an organization. But if they were good at sales, I was willing to just try to take some risks. And so in building the company back up, we implemented the barbecue test. Have I told you about our barbecue test?
Yeah, but please share.
Yeah, if you would not be welcome. I've told the entire company, if we're interviewing someone and you would not have that employee at your home for a barbecue, they can't work at this company. Right?
Yeah.
Like character and morale and trusting someone. And so I feel like this way back up, the staff that we have today, our team, our culture, the energy, it's the best it's ever been. I mean, our staff today is phenomenal. And, from 2023 all the way through today, so now it's been 2.5 years, we went from that low point of having 29 employees. I think today we have our 155th employee that has started. I feel like we're significantly more efficient. I feel like, I could talk, we'll probably get a little bit later, I could talk more about the company today, but I feel like a very, very, very long-winded answer giving you that journey is these 3 different phases at any given time. First off, to quit a job is the scariest thing you could ever do.
Mhm.
Anybody that's listening to this, or any job that you were, working on Wall Street for 7 years, when you decide I'm going to go work for a small company or work for yourself,
Yep.
there's no one you can rely upon. When you don't have those results, you're just looking at yourself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first step, that first triangle, that phase 0, as you will, is the best advice I can give anybody is making sure you consult with people in your life that you trust. Making sure you don't just go rogue and make a reactionary decision. Setting yourself up to be in a position where you're giving yourself the opportunity to succeed. Have a plan, have resources, have people in your life, both, monetary and resourceful, that can help you in that phase, right? And so for me, I did all the education I could. I found the mentor, I saved money, and I embarked upon, I'm going to be a mortgage broker. And then once I learned that for a couple of years, that phase, and that phase for me was, I'm going to work, I didn't have kids yet. I'm going to work as many hours as humanly possible. I'll work anybody in the industry. I have a belief system. I had this morning routine. People talk about morning routines, but I had a legit morning routine. I pray, I do my affirmations. I was in this mastermind group, like whatever it took, I wanted to achieve that next level of success. But that phase for me was work as many hours as you can, build a book of business, fine tune exactly what your craft is so that you can have that foundation to get to that next level. Mm. And then that next level was, okay, how do you hire employees? What's the mindset? What's the strategy for that? And it was, I can't get there. There's no I in team. I can't go win a championship without a supporting cast and without a team. And I can't have a team that operates the way I do without me being selfless with my time and training them. Even if I'm going to take a step backwards, I want them to know what the right way to do mortgages are. The consumer is always first. Do it loan fast. If somebody sent me a message at 8 p.m., I don't wait till the next morning. They're buying a home. Text them back. And that reputation, right, and teaching my team how to be able to act and serve, that allowed us to have this nucleus and this foundation that was super, super solid. I'll never forget the first time I felt like it was like a company. I didn't even know, right? I came into my office one morning. It was there was like 8 people all on the phone at one time. Mm. And I remember, I'll never forget it. I can still hear it in my head. It was like, this is a dream.
Yeah.
This is, and they were reading like the script that I had put together. I learned at Solstice Capital in 2006, and then to like actually grow and build a company, it's like, okay, let's train a sales staff, but to build a company, the 3 things you can invest in are technology, people, and marketing. And I think technology is the easiest low-hanging fruit that people are willing to invest in. I think people are scared to invest in marketing, and I know people are scared to invest in people.
Yep.
We've talked about it.
Yep.
Paying someone a salary, right? The return on investment that you receive from aligning yourself with people that share your vision, there's no greater ROI than I've received on any investment in my business. Mm-hmm. And those folks who have been right by my side, trudging away in the battling lines, as you will, I would do anything for them. And they know I do anything. I know they do anything for me as well, too. It's a reciprocal. So that phase, you talk bringing things full circle. How do I have the ability to leave work twice a week at 3:30 p.m., to be at the field at 4 p.m.? Coaching 3 teams is madness. But it's, I'm able to wake up. I'm able to do the morning routine. I'm able to spend time with my kids. I'm able to work my tail off at the times I'm in the office. And I'm able to have a team that I trust and delegate to, and give them the true autonomy and trust that if you asked everyone on my staff, it doesn't mean I don't drive them crazy, right? Like I'm a CEO, I'm hyper obsessed with winning and focus and hitting our goals. but I want every person on my staff to feel like their vertical and the corridor they run is theirs. And if they have problems, I don't want them to come to me with a problem. It's put together 3 solutions and come to me and let's make a decision together. And these folks are, again, they're best in breed, best in the industry.
Yeah.
So there has been a different, my triangle may be different than other business owners, but there has to be a different mindset, like we were talking about before, and a different foundation at each level.
Yeah.
So you can get to that next level, because if one level is shaky or it's sand, the whole thing will crumble, you know?
Yeah.
So
100%.
anyways, I've been talking too long. That's
no,
a little
that was
bit more about
outstanding.
my story. So
This is outstanding. Can I play some throwback
please.
with you right now?
Please.
So what really jumps out to me at first is the number one lesson is definitely join a timeshare company to start a company.
That's where it all started.
Yeah,
You'd be great at selling timeshares to us. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Marriott, here I come, man.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that you literally threw up a goose egg for the entire first year of loans. You got 0 loans funded in the first year. So you know that Kobe Bryant story where he played for the Sunny Hill League, which is weird because that's where I grew up in Philadelphia, right outside of there. He scored 0 points that entire, I think it was a summer league. So you scored 0 loan points the entire first year.
Yep.
That's crazy. And then it wasn't until you were about to hang it up, it sounded like.
Yep, 100%.
And then got linked up somehow with Solstice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Solstice. And they said, hey, throw away all the stuff that you've been doing. And you were doing outbound prior.
Yeah.
That's got to be
little
tough.
inbound, but mostly outbound.
Okay.
Just dialing for dollars.
So yeah, dialing for dollars, outbound phone calls, and Solstice trains you. This is crazy. Just for 1 week on the right stuff.
Yep.
They give you a script. I think you said within a handful of weeks you sold 3 or 4 loans.
Within a handful of weeks, I was one of their top loan originators. I was doing,
Yeah.
at first it was like 3 or 4 a week, then it was 6, 7,
Wow.
8, 9, 10 a week.
And that boils down to, and I hope I'm not hyperbolizing this, just use this script. We've tested this 5 million times. Don't get fancy, right? Don't get cute. Excuse my language. Read the fucking script because it works, and then you'll be successful. And you did that.
Yes, the only secret sauce I would add to that is when I saw the amount of success that you can have from reading the script and after, again, excuse my language, eating shit for the entire previous year, I was like, holy cow. I'm going to outwork everybody here, because at 21 years old, if I can make tens of thousands of dollars each month, this ain't real, right?
Yeah.
So I started being, within my second week, that was the first guy in at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean, calls didn't come in until 6 a.m. I would get in at 5:45. I would have 2 waters in like a little paper cup. I'd have 1 coffee, and I was like a sprinter, right?
Yeah.
I was just waiting for 6 a.m. with my headset on, like ready to go. And I would stay in that mindset until 6 p.m. I was there every day.
Yeah.
First guy in, last guy to leave every Saturday. So, yes, the script worked, but I had a insane motivation to be the best guy there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say the script was prerequisite, and then you apply the gasoline right on that fire, and then boom. What is also interesting, I've noticed this pattern. Then you have some senior guys come and you say, hey, you don't need to use that script anymore. I've seen this so many times in business. It's like, why are we changing what works? Nope. Just do more of that. But the reality is not you, but they probably got bored with it or wanted to get fancy or whatever, or their ambition was just at a lower level than yours. It's like, hey man, you don't need to use that anymore. And what I hear in your story is like, I think I'm fine with the script. I'll just keep on doing more of the script. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah. The only thing I'd add to that for the vets, right, is there's ego.
Yeah.
They have a better way, right? Like, that script's good for newbies, but like, let me show you how I do it. It's like, all right, you do your thing, but this thing's gold. So
yeah, I mean, because I think what happens oftentimes is like for a great business like yours, you've tested so many permutations that it'd be impossible for a single human to be like, no, I got this better than Kurt, right? It's like, that's not Kurt. It's an entire machine that's been testing permutations for more than a decade. The chances that a single human can come in and say, no, trust me, and they're not even measuring theirs, I almost guarantee it, right? Just their perception of, I'm producing better results. The chance of that are almost zero. Same to you, like you did not change the script when you came in. You tested the machinery. I'm going to give it all I got. All of a sudden you're successful. Why change it?
Amen.
Yeah. So then I hear in your story, 30K, and you told me this before. Hey, I took 30K of my own capital, right? I put it into marketing. And I think you're spot on. I still notice it to this day, even with our competitors. Our competitors are just not willing to spend any sort of measurable capital on marketing. I don't know why, but it's like they're not doing the math on, oh, well, I just go out golfing with guys. I take them out to lunch and so on. And then, yeah, 2 years later, you have a client versus having the guts to say, I'm going to spend 60K on marketing now. Now, 30K back then when you started is a lot of money, and especially probably proportionally to what you had in the bank. I would probably guess it was almost entirely what you had, right? Discretionary capital. And it wasn't until the last round of $2,000 where you pulled in any money.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How did that feel at the time?
Leading up to it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Countless nights in tears, self-doubt looming in, wondering if I'd made the right decision. Getting that win, I will never forget. Tim, the borrower, again, leave his last name out. I'll never forget coming home and telling Rand, like, we're back.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's like,
yeah. 4 deals, right, within
four
one
deals,
client.
one day.
Yeah.
1 day, 4 deals. It was just, I felt like the weight of the world was taken off my shoulders.
Do you feel like there's a bit of a cheat code, for lack of better terminology, with being willing to spend on leads?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen that now for the last handful of years, and I'm quadrupling down on it now. Of like, oh, just most people are not willing, they're not doing the math on their time and client acquisition relative to, yeah, I can just write a check for that lead flow. And I think it does a couple things. Number one, it brings in more heads than you could have ever done on your own, right? Because the dollars are leveraged. But then number two, it can force the company to go at speeds it's never gone before. And vehicles don't start to break down unless it's at certain miles per hour. So you don't actually get to feel where the car is weak until you go fast. But the only reason you can go fast is if you have more lead flow. But if you're not willing to spend on more lead flow, you'll never see where the machine's broken. Is that a fair analogy?
Absolutely.
And then you can fix that wobbly wheel because now you find out at 60 miles an hour, that's where we max out. We need to fix that because we need to go 100 miles an hour.
Yep. Or someone that says, okay, my budget for the year, if they're finally willing to do it, is this. When it's like, if you just spend a little bit more than what constraint you put yourself and your business into, you could have had significantly better results. I did that myself. When I first started growing, you talk about, I could have, again, there's no regrets, but I could have achieved success faster, I believe, if I was just willing to spend more. And that's more when I had a staff, and I look back 2018, 2019, 2020. 2020 started getting easier when rates were lower. But I look at 2018, 2019, and I could have given my staff significantly more leads than they were getting. But I had all these new employees, I had all these expenses. I was freaking terrified, But having the balls, as you will, or the commitment to spend and invest into your staff, if you have the right people or you have the right machine, your vehicle, you have a phenomenal vehicle here, right? So give it the gas it needs to be able to go where it's trying to go. If you don't give it enough gas, you're not going to get to that destination you're trying to get to. Or you're going to have to keep stopping for gas along the way.
Right, right. So if we look at the business as supply or demand, so let's say you have demand of leads, so that we'll say that's the demand side, and then you have supply of the operational fulfillment capacity of the team. How did you ever at a certain point say, okay, we could buy way more leads, but we can't because we have the operational chokehold? Did that ever happen?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. How do you solve for that?
It's probably the one thing I didn't ramble on is it's the org chart, at least in my business. When you're staffing for a hyper growth mode company, albeit any company that there is, I remember going on runs at night, like 3-4 nights a week, just to get the org chart in my head to properly think through. Because you either don't have, in my world, you either don't have enough salespeople. Then how do you find really good salespeople? Or you have good salespeople, but you don't have enough operational people. It's not like all these salespeople great, but now there's a pig in the python and loans aren't moving because I don't have enough ops people. But I'm scared to do ops people because that's fixed expenses.
Right, exactly.
So they get the ops people, and then the 10-year treasury bill goes up 30 basis points, and now the salespeople aren't selling as much, and now I'm bloated here. And then when do I need an HR person? Oh, when do I need capital markets? Being a first-time business owner and serial entrepreneurial mindset, not knowing how to properly staff is terrifying. And there's nobody, you could get all the mentors in the world, but there's no secret sauce or algorithm of how to properly staff. So I think, to answer your question, it's just ebbs and flows, and you have to be okay with, at some point you're going to have more staff, and at some point you're going to have more gas coming in than the tank can handle.
How many layers, if you don't mind me asking, how many layers do you have now? So you have C-suite layer now.
Yep.
And did you build that bottom up? Like, okay, we hire staff, and then we need more headcount, and then eventually there's critical mass, so we need a manager, and then we need, a chief executive of whatever, right?
Yep.
Or a chief marketing officer, whatever that is. How many layers do you have now?
I don't like C-suite. I just don't like the way it sounds. But yes, I have a leadership team where there's an industry expert in each one of their fields. My leadership team has 10 team members today.
Okay.
I don't love as much middle level management if it's not needed.
Okay.
I love to promote from within any way, shape, or form I possibly can. When you cannot promote from within, then it's seeking outside guidance of who can I get that is the best at their craft to come in and help us run this vertical. And at first, again, being smart, every single employee that I hired, especially on the leadership team, it was someone that was willing to do anything. And someone that it wasn't just like, a guy that is a master at underwriting, Jeff, right? He's underwriting for 20 years. He came in to oversee processing, oversee funding, build underwriting. Like, he did a lot until I found someone that was like, okay, this person is going to be best for processing. Okay, this person is going to be best for funding. You know what I mean? So it was kind of bifurcating the process.
Talk to me about CRMs. This has been like a freaking nightmare for us, man. Like, I struggle because I feel like I already know in advance you're going to have a tech stack. It's not going to be unidimensional. Here's the single piece of tech. I've been wanting to pull my hair out with CRMs. Like, what's your commentary in general on CRMs? I'm assuming it's been a pain point for you as well.
It's a battle of midgets.
Okay. Teach me. What does that mean?
It means that you got to pick your best horse jockey, your best midget, and you got to run with it. They're all going to be frustrating. They're all going to be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
You get what you pay for. So I've been through the gamut of CRMs. I committed doing Salesforce, which was the most expensive because it was a blank canvas. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about Salesforce, which we're back in now, we got out of when the market was really tough and it was just too expensive for us to have at the time.
The expense is crazy, man.
It is. And it's not just the software that you have, it's the development, and it's never ending, right? And the way your brain works and my brain works, it's like, I have an idea at midnight. Somebody can do it if you're willing to pay.
Yeah.
But what I found was most CRMs, I think the biggest challenge is you find a CRM. So you have your business, then there's CRM. The CRM is here. You have to mold your business to fit in the confines of the CRM. And I think that's the most challenging part for a business owner, because everything they tell you on the demo they can do 65% of it, 64% of it.
Right.
And it's frustrating, and you have to limit your business in certain areas and still have some spreadsheets. So that's what you're going to get with most CRMs. With Salesforce, it just takes a lot longer. It takes a lot more cost, but for you and your business, knowing what I know, I'd recommend Salesforce all day, and I get the best developer, and I just bite the bullet and continue to stop having headaches over it. Yeah. We got out of Salesforce. We went to a couple of other CRMs, a couple actually really good ones, and had really good experience. But when you're in Salesforce and you understand its capability and that it can really do anything and everything you want it to do, it was really hard not to go back to that. Mm-hmm. But the tech stack's important. It's really, really important.
Oh, yeah. Do you still have, you mentioned, you kind of alluded to having a statistician on board. Is that his sole occupation?
It's not.
Okay.
He does a lot. He looks at data analytics. He looks at all of our marketing, the two go hand in hand. He looks at product development. They're all kind of in the same wheelhouse, but this particular individual is a superhuman. Sam, I'll give Sam. Yeah. Shout out to Sam. He does it all. He wears a lot of different hats, and he's still able to be very efficient.
Okay. Yeah, because that data, I mean, there's so much data inside of a business. Kyle runs a lot of data for us. It's tough to find that person.
Shout out to Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. How much of your role at a certain point, I'm getting a feeling at a certain point you evolved into more recruiting. Is that a fair?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
So once I had this machine, right, it's 2019-ish, it was, okay, we have something. I can actually put my name behind this product, that product being Advantage First Lending. Now, how do I find people? And if you go talk to a recruiter, they want 20% of the first year salary, which for the right person, totally worth the investment, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
You're trying to grow, that adds up. And it's, with salespeople, you have to share some commission. So, I have employees today that said, hey man, you messaged me on LinkedIn. You sent me a friend request on LinkedIn. They'd accept. And my first response, I was psychotic, right? Like they call it thirsty these days. I was very thirsty.
Yeah.
If I sent, this guy Tom works on my team today, Tom Gossage. I think I sent him a friend request. He accepted. And within minutes, I said, how you liking it over at your current job right now?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm good, dude.
Yeah.
But I have dozens of these, I don't want to say hundreds, but I have several dozens of high-level employees and high-level individuals in the space that I just wanted to share what I was doing with and wanted to find out how I could find. And there's a lot of companies right now, I know, that don't treat their employees the same way that I do. And they don't care as much. And there are a lot of employees that work at a company that aren't stoked on what they're doing. So yeah, I was recruiting. I was posting stories every day. I was posting on social media. I was creeping on people on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I was telling anybody I hired, it's like, hey, is there anybody good at where you came from, right? But being careful because I didn't want to get myself into trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was obsessed. Ties into that org chart. Obsessed with recruiting.
Yeah. Now, was that a season or a phase? Are you out of that now, or do you still have I guess let me rephrase it. What role do you play now?
So I've worn every hat, I feel like, in the business on the way up and on the way down. The role I play today is truly CEO. I have a weekly hour meeting with everybody that directly reports to me on my leadership team. We sit down and we look at everything they went over the previous week, everything they're looking to do at the upcoming week. So I spend a big chunk of my time understanding what my leaders, where they need support, how I can be supportive to them, what resources they need, what challenges they're having. Because again, I can't do all of those roles, but I can be a willing and able partner strategically to help them and just share my experience in being able to do so. So number one role, CEO and meeting with my direct leadership team.
And that's 1 hour with all of them together?
No. So we
1
have
hour each?
Yeah, 1 hour each.
Got
we
it.
have what's called a weekly one-on-one. So I typically have about 2 to 3 one-on-ones per week, not Fridays. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I schedule them out throughout the day, and I have these hour meetings, and I typically leave about 90 minutes because oftentimes they can go over.
Got it.
Those same leadership folks, every Friday, I do ask that they send me a weekly recap, just how their week went, what they're working on. It has allowed me to feel just more kind of locked in and in step with them. And it's something I love enjoying reading either on Friday night or over the weekend so that my brain can start getting prepared with what I want to meet with them the following week. That's been super, super, super helpful. So weekly meetings with my leadership team, still in my business, I feel like often days and weeks are walking through a little bit of a grenade field. That's just any business, I believe. There's certain landmines that pop up. So problem solving, troubleshooting is a big chunk of my day. It's just trying to not be reactive, but also working with my business mentor I spend a few hours with him every week on what we've been doing, what we're doing today, and where we're trying to get to. So a lot more strategic planning, working on the business has been a heavy, heavy focus. I was going to not work with that mentor when the business had kind of on life support, as you will. One of the best investments I've ever made in my life was continuing that relationship for the last 6 years, investing even when it was most uncomfortable, because he's been by my side truly every single step of the way.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Yeah, he as you know, he coaches us as well, and just unbelievable. I have noticed that you have never told me this is a value or a skill or strength of yours, but I have noticed speed. Like that, whenever I think of you and working with you and your team, even going back 7-8 years ago, whatever the number was when we first started working together, the speed at which you cycle through. Hey, you send me the paperwork, I get it 15 minutes later. Like crazy shit like that.
Yep.
Whereas most people that I work with, it's 4 days later. It's I'll get to it when I get to it. Is that a fair attribute to tag to you? Speed?
Yeah. It's almost to a fault, right? Because what I've learned over my career is I can't expect that same speed from others. I'd sent you something by way of email today, and I said, hey, Wes, can you print this for me? It's coming to the office. Just want to see if you could print something out for me. you text me and said, hey, when are you going to send it to me? And it was only because you're probably doing your job running your business
Yeah,
and not
yeah.
checked your email.
Yep.
My brain goes to like, this guy's a bum, hasn't checked his email in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like truly, because I
Yeah.
operate, and I've gotten a lot better than I used to be. I remember managing at Loan Depot, and I used to spin people out. I mean, processors were crying, right? Like, dude, you just emailed me that 6 minutes ago. Now you're at my desk asking why it's not done.
Yeah.
There are other people in the world other than you.
Yeah.
But speed to me it's a superpower.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
And when I was building my business, if a client, if a employee, if anyone had sent me a message, an email, a request, I mean, I was psychotically obsessed with no red notifications on my iPhone. I would respond within seconds. And my brain too, I knew with as quick, efficient, and as thorough of a response, they're going to get that response and go, holy shit, this guy doesn't mess around.
Mm-hmm.
And I carried that approach for a long time. And every employee, every staff member that I am board, I warn them, I operate at a different cadence than most people. And I'm warning you ahead of time, if you're not into that, or if it feels like too much, now's your chance to get out. Because sometimes I have unrealistic expectations, but if there's something I need it done efficiently. It just needs to get done. And yeah, if I was buying a house today and I got this guy at US Bank that helped me last house we bought, any list you give me, you're going to have those docs back within the hour, right? Because I know it's such a pain in the ass it is to ask someone else for something and have them not prioritize what is important. Interestingly enough, there was a burnout fatigue level on that for me personally.
Okay.
And I'm sure you know this, if you've called me anytime within the last year, I live on Do Not Disturb. My phone, the moon, I toggle it down. I take my phone off Do Not Disturb if I have a code red appointment with a doctor that needs to call me and I need to pick it up. But other than that, when your phone's on Do Not Disturb with the iPhone, it doesn't ring. There's no noise. There's no notification. I still see the missed call and the message, but I get back to it when I'm ready to get back to it instead of feeling like I have this obligation, because that's ingrained in me. I probably should do some therapy or work on it, but I have this obligation to respond right away. It's really hard for me. So living on Do Not Disturb has been a game changer. And then I just put my wife, put our nanny as our favorites so that they just come right through. They just come right through, and I'm always available. I always answer my wife's calls when I can, and make sure that I'm there. The kids' school, right? Like that comes right through.
Yeah.
But other than that, that speed, if you're starting a business today, or if you have these goals, and you don't have an internal clock, in my opinion, you may succeed, but the level of success that you want will be diminished by your unwillingness to like really throttle it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I've noticed, and you've never told me explicitly, but I've noticed again and again and again, is that speed. I like that mantra, whether or not you say it's a mantra, but it's like within the hour or within the X. I'm going to steal that one from you if that's okay, and see if we can upgrade our level of speed here in the office and this internal clock. Are there any other superpowers that you would say, if I forced you, because I know you're humble about this stuff, but if I forced you to say, hey, like, what makes you different? I'm going to tag speed as one of them.
Speed, I go back to the daily affirmations. I think when someone first told me, and if someone's listening to this and they think affirmations, the first time I heard it, I like laughed. Like, what do you watch? The Secret, right? You manifest a red Ferrari, you're going to go get a red Ferrari.
Yeah.
And like, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It was a book that I read when I did this mastermind study back in this group. We met every Friday. As you came on board right as I was leaving. This was over a dozen years ago. But I wrote down this definitive statement of purpose. We all did. Right? And it's like, this was my goal. It's a monetary goal. I want to achieve this number, and here's how I'm going to do it. And here's how it's almost acting as if you've done it. And what that led to is writing these morning affirmations that every morning, my routine is I pray every single morning, no matter what. I then follow the morning prayers up with those affirmations. They're together, it's set, and I don't miss a day, period. I've even got my kids, all three of my boys, every morning we're in the car, we're going to school, even with Rand, with myself. It's all right, guys, time for affirmations. Well, now Noah, my oldest, he loves praying for us. So he'll pray for us in the car, then all three boys do their affirmations. And some of their affirmations, they go, I am happy, I am strong, I am healthy, today's my day, boom. And they give me a fist pump. They love it. It's the cutest thing in the world. But my affirmations are the things that I call it manifest, the things that I am so obsessed with wanting to become and do that if you say them and believe them every single day, they just happen. And I'd be the first one to say that I thought it was hokey, but the reality of it is those affirmations have allowed me, I believe, to be a foundation to get me where I am today. And then I just add to those. Right? When those things happen, it's like, okay, well, what's next? Okay, let's add it to our morning affirmation list. So speed, morning prayer and affirmations. I think sometimes people talk about a routine.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a secret power that a lot of people don't realize is sometimes a routine, while it can serve you, it can also really hurt you, because if life events happen and something in life, which has happened to me numerous times, and you can't stick to that routine, you're off.
Right. Yep.
And so what I've built and we've talked about is I have this daily scorecard.
Yep.
I've been doing it now every day for almost 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's these 10 data points are what I want to track every single day, whether it be wake up time or cold plunge or affirmations or a 20-minute workout or my diet or what I read, whatever it is. And I switch it up yearly. But I want to track these items every day, no matter what. And the key with that, what I found was I don't have to do them all in the morning. But I do need to make sure that by the time I put my head down on the pillow, that all of these items are done. I do a morning gratitude list every day. But I've actually switched that up over the last few months where I do the gratitude list at night right before I go to bed. And the reason I did that was, number one, it felt too routine, a bit monotonous doing it every single morning.
Yeah.
And what it allowed me to do doing it at the end of the day was talk about and remind myself of what this day really offered me and presented and what a gift each day is and what I'm grateful for from that day. Freaking game changer.
Yeah.
So I think having an area of controllables that you're tracking, you've seen my spreadsheet again. It's anybody listening, it's mildly psychotic because it adds up each week and gives you a score for each area that you're trying to track. But no one sees that but me. We shared ours for a while, but no one sees that but me, and I love it. So find the areas that if you do repeatedly daily, allow you to be the best version of yourself. Morning prayers and affirmations, speed, and then just the true belief that anything is possible. It ties back to those affirmations. Mm-hmm. There is nothing in this world that if you want bad enough that you can't go do. And I think that 98% of people say, yeah, but.
Yeah, 100%.
I just don't. It's like, okay, what are we doing next? How are we going to do it? Let's go do it. And I think some people are somewhat, I will say like a really quick 30-second story.
Yeah, please.
I have another business, another friend of ours that I'm a part owner in. And it's been phenomenal. Great business, great operator, love working with him. He's helped me, I've helped him, but his business has done phenomenally well. And he was looking to grow his business and invest in another vertical of his business. He asked me to join along. He said, okay, on this other leg of my business, it's going to be you, and there's this other friend, and it's going to be the three of us. I wasn't a huge fan of the third guy, but I said, look, I trust you if that's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. He said, Kurt, I got to be honest with you. The next day, he said, I talked to the other guy. Before I even said anything, I told him there was another partner, which he's a little nervous about, and I told him it was you. His response was, that guy's intense. Mm-hmm. And Wes, I got to be honest, I was so fucking pissed that this guy called me intense. I'm like, I'm not intense. So
I think it's a great attribute.
So I was kind of shook, and I spent like 15 minutes telling my partner, I'm like, fucking intense. I walk over to my processing manager at the time, and I said, hey, I have a question for you.
Do you think I'm intense?
Do you think I'm intense?
Yeah.
And she looked at me, and she goes, you're the most intense person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. You're the definition of intense.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, fuck you. Then I go over to somebody else on my sales team. I said, hey, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
If somebody referred to me as intense, how would you react? And they're like, you're the most intense guy I've ever met in my entire life. I call Randy. I'm like, hey, babe, do you think I'm intense? She's like, you are so intense. Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that being as intense as I am is a superhero. A superpower.
100%.
So I'm intense. And I'm, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know how to do things half-assed. Mm-hmm. If you saw the way that I coach my flag football team, I go there with my iPad. I go there with every single 10-minute period over a 60-minute period is completely planned out and completely dialed in because I never want to feel underprepared. Mm-hmm. And I know that keeping 6, 7, 8-year-old boys focused, like parents are like, wow, how do you keep them focused? You know? And it's like, dude, there's no room for goofing around.
Yeah.
If they want to goof around, they can run. I don't care if they're 6, right? Like, they're going to learn that the hour a week that they're with me, it's structured, and this is what we do, and this is why we're doing it, and we're going to do our best to win. Mm-hmm. So I don't know the best way to describe it, but there's nothing that I do without giving it 125%.
Yeah.
It's a blessing and a curse, right? Like, if we want to go play pickleball, I'm going to beat you.
No, I won't. Yeah.
If we're going to go bowling, I'm going to beat you.
Maybe. Yeah.
If we're going to golf, I don't know, you probably beat me.
Horrible at golf. But no, I see that in you 100%. And I think we share a similar like value there of like the definition of doing it is actually doing it. And if you're not going to do it to your best ability, then why the fuck are you doing it? Right.
Amen. Amen.
And that, if you bring that to the wrong circles, there's a risk of diluting that because they don't have the same standards. So,
the only thing I'll
yeah.
dovetail off of that, I've lost friends because of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Same.
It's, it can be intimidating.
Yeah.
Success next to the wrong person can make someone feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a huge learning lesson for me over the last 5 years. I have friends that I was friends with previously that I'm no longer friends with.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not to say, I'm this great guy and I'm amazing, but I will tell you that this is how I operate and I'm not slowing down. And sometimes that success, I think it makes people feel uncomfortable.
Without a doubt.
And I think, I didn't talk about this, but there's a rule I have in my company. I've said it at our most recent all-company meeting. There's no must-be-nicers at this company. I will not allow it. And people go, what's a must-be-nicer?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, well, if somebody pulled up today in a Lamborghini and your first thought is, must be nice, you can't work here.
Yeah.
You have to be happy for someone else's success. You know their story. I don't care if they were given it to as a trust fund. You don't know what their dad or their grandfather went through so that they could have that car. You don't know how hard that person's worked. If someone pulls up in a nice car, I think, good for them. If I see you scale and grow your business to the point where you have, dude, I'm your biggest supporter, your biggest cheerleader, your biggest fan.
Yep.
And I try to take that in every area that I'm in, and I'm happy for people. But I'll tell you what, 98% of the world, at least in my eyes, they really struggle with that, and they are threatened by someone else's success.
Yep.
So my intensity or my commitment to success, or I was so obsessed with this is the end zone. This is where I want to get to in my career, right? Whether it be monetary, whether it be a loan funded volume goal. And what I realized is once you get there, it didn't feel how I thought it would. So I just moved the goalpost.
Yep.
Right? But that makes people feel uncomfortable. And so today I choose to surround myself with guys like you and guys that are that 2% that aren't must-be-nicers. I choose to build a company where the staff that comes in, if you saw our sales chat, anytime somebody gets a new deal, we get 40, 50 a day, they get 20, 30, 40 likes.
Yeah.
Right? They get so many people that are like, yes.
Yeah.
Because somebody else having success is not taking food off of your plate.
Yeah. Dude, it's so funny because when you say it out loud, it makes a lot of sense, but it's not common practice.
Nope.
Right? Like I'm guilty myself. And this is not some sort of humble brag. This is the bad side of it. I have a flaw of competition, which is phenomenal in certain areas. But one of the downsides is I used to give out compliments like it cost me money or something, right? So I would give out very few because in my subconscious, it was like, well, I'm admitting that person's better than me. And that's crazy. Like this was years and years and years ago. But then when I was coached along and said like, hey, right, why don't you feed into the positivity loop? And then you'll notice it's not a zero-sum game because I grew up in a zero-sum game environment. Like Wall Street was like, hey, any dollar that you have is one less dollar that I don't have. But then somewhere along the line, I had some mentors teach me, it's like, hey, just try on the other side. Why not try boosting the Kurts of the world up? And then you'll notice that they boost you up. And all of a sudden, it's this like upward positive spiral, not the opposite. And that took a while for me to learn.
Bingo.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
hard.
a superpower for you.
Yeah.
I love being around you. I mean, for
Thanks,
a million reasons. I won't say it all on camera, but like we have an incredible friendship.
Yeah.
Built
Thank
on
you, buddy.
honesty. It's built on trust.
Yeah.
But you are so complimentary, almost like to the point where it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So to show the growth that you have by putting in the work that you've done, you're always complimentary of anybody. And I think that's a superpower of yours.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, but that was built by coaches. I mean, let's say final thing. Well, two final things. Number one, how do you feel about coaching? Right? Specifically receiving coaching, regardless of what level you're at. And then to tail it off, like, is there anything that you would like to share with the listeners that I haven't asked you? So first, coaching. Next is like, what should I have asked you that I didn't?
What's the specific question on coaching?
So my perspective on coaching is I will do it. I will receive coaching forever and always for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And the times where I tell myself I don't need a coach are the times where I need to double down on getting coaching.
Amen.
Right? Would you agree? Like
1,000%.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe expand on that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a limit on personal growth.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a limit on information. And while ChatGPT is amazing, it's very different.
Yeah,
okay?
100%.
And you can learn a lot from ChatGPT. It's a great resource. You can ask it questions. But it goes back to what I said at the beginning, is if there's someone in your life that has what you want, do what they do. And if you have to pay for that coaching, like I look at coaching, and like for me, and everybody's different. Some people need that raw coach, and we're going to get up at 5 a.m. and we're going to cold plunge. I don't need that. right?
Mhm.
Like I have that. I almost need to turn that down
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But someone that has been where I'm at and has had to make strategic, life-changing decisions
Mhm.
that can share that experience with me and help me navigate through that, you have to have the humility. Like I
Yeah.
said, it doesn't matter what level you think you've gotten to.
Mhm.
There are so many other levels above that, and to get to that next level, you always have to stay humble enough to be
Mhm.
coached. I know a lot of guys in my space and in your space that don't want coaching.
Yep.
Their egos are too big
Mhm.
to believe that anybody could ever help them. And
Mhm.
what are you doing talking to that old guy? You know, whatever it is, that's such bullshit,
Yep. 100%.
right? Like age doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Experience speaks for itself, and it's just so simple. If somebody has what you want, do what they do.
Yeah.
And if they're willing to give that to you, either free time ain't free,
Mhm.
and if you have to pay for it, pay for it. But yeah, the only caveat to that is if you were going to pay for coaching, I'd strongly urge anyone validate the resources of that coach.
Yeah.
Because I think nowadays you can get so hoodwinked by what you see on Instagram.
Yep. 100%.
The guy that's showing you all the cars that he has, the guys that's showing you the Prada shoes that he's wearing, the guy that wants to, wear these fancy suit supply. Like you got to be very. I'm just messing with Wes. You got to be careful, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody is, this master class and it's 30 grand a year, and you got to go with all these other people, like my personal experience, there are better opportunities for coaching.
Yeah.
And you may have to seek, and it may not be the first coach that you do. But even with my current mentor right now, I mean, this guy has the most insane unblemished track record.
Yep.
And when you introduced him to me, he gave me 3 referrals. And he said, check with these resources before we get into business.
Mhm.
And I did. I called all of them. And every one of them said he's the smartest guy I've ever worked with, and he's changed my life. And here's how. So, yes, huge proponent of it. There's never a level you can get to where you are better than coaching.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to the ego thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is why I want to have conversations like this in our small microcosm here. What we're doing is I have the benefit of knowing who's actually performed well in business because I know their personal finances. Because for years I went to those hoodwinkers, right? Like the dude who's driving, because I grew up poor as hell. So if they had like a Lexus keychain, I'm like, that's the guy. I want to learn from that guy, right? Not realizing that that's his mom's car or whatever. And that still happens. I would argue it happens even more today.
Yep.
Because now, as long as you're good at social media, right? I would argue, not almost, all of the ultra successful humans that I know, and you know that I put you in that category for the holistic success. Like all the boxes are checked, if you don't mind me saying that. Right? I know that for 100% certain. You're not out there selling coaching services. And all of the other very, very, very successful humans that I know are also not selling their coaching services. I do know a whole bunch of people, and this is not to talk trash, but I also know of many coaches who I know should not be coaches, but they're just really good at marketing.
Yep.
And that's a shame, right? Because now the very thing that you're thinking they're doing is doing the opposite. They're pretending to know the patterns that they've never done. But having somebody, to the gentleman that you and I are referring to, who's already done all the patterns, they've recognized the patterns, they've done it for many other companies. It's a cheat code. And I will pay. I think you and I pay a lot of money for coaching each year, as long as it's high quality coaching. I think it's worth it, every single day of the week.
Yep. To piggyback off that, you're 1,000% spot on. But just to even double down on that, as you will, the reason why a guy like myself or a guy like you, or other of your very successful clients that aren't coaching, when you are coaching, you are trading your time for money. Mm-hmm. And to me, with my business, and my family, and my world, time is such a precious commodity that I'm unwilling to trade that for some monetary gain. So I think when you look at the hyper successful individuals, trading time for some more money, it's really just putting more on our plate, because there's nothing on my plate right now I can take off. Mm-hmm. So am I going to take something off? Am I going to take an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 a week away from my kids, away from a date night with my wife, away from a one-on-one with somebody on my staff, which my commitment and my path and my focus is all of these things, time away from church, right? Anything, whatever it is, am I going to take time away from that to go and try to do some, get rich? You're going to get rich by doing these 5 things. I'm not, right? Now, again, at a certain point in my career, when maybe some of these things, maybe my kids are grown, maybe they're off to school, maybe the business is, maybe in a different, who knows, right? Like business is in a different position, kids are in a different position. Yeah, there's different phases.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone, I don't know how to describe what I'm saying, but if someone's main focus and they don't have the resume to build, they may have the car, but you look at and they don't have experience with doing what they say, run for the hills.
Yeah.
Run for the hills.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think you and I really lucked out, if you don't mind me saying that, with our coach. I've got multiple coaches, and I think you kind of do too, but this one that we're alluding to, it's like if Bill Belichick just didn't want to coach NFL football anymore. There's just it's just too time consuming for him. So he wanted to go back to college or high school coaching. That's how I view our coach, right? It's like he does it because he loves it. He only takes on a very limited amount of people, right? Like per year, because he doesn't want to overwhelm his schedule. And just the high quality advice that he gives is unbelievable. And we can call him anytime. And he just, in my opinion, he helps me in a way that's more of subtraction than it is addition sometimes, of like, hey, don't go down that road. And he'll save me 7 months of effort that I didn't even recognize were saved until we get to the end of the rainbow. I'm like, oh shit, thank God I didn't go down that road. Did you similar experience for you?
100%.
Yeah. So what would you like to share that I have not asked you? Is there anything that I missed that you say, hey, this is important that everybody listening to this knows?
I'm a broken record at Advantage First Lending, AFL.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about, everyone asks what the secret to success is.
Mm-hmm.
The secret to success is an unbreakable positive mindset coupled with an insane work ethic.
Mm.
Your work ethic plus your mindset, if you combine those two with the right intensity, anything's possible. Anything. I also believe in not cutting corners.
Mm.
And I think today, for any of your listeners or a lot of the interns you work with, everybody wants the instant gratification. Shoot, I do. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah.
There's just not. I maybe won out of buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Don't cut corners. We have a motto in our house that my wife implemented, which I love more than anything, is Cymerint's do hard things. Mm. When our boys don't want to do something, it's we do hard things in this family. And I think it's such a small but powerful line. We do hard things.
Yeah.
But I would say in the world of technology and instant gratification, people don't want to do hard things.
Yep.
I look back at, you understand, what's the 8th wonder of the world?
Compound interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you take out interest and you just talk about the power of compounding, which you know better than anybody, I believe you can apply the power of compounding to anything.
100%.
Gym, business. Mm-hmm. Where I sit in life today, having the opportunity to sit in a podcast with Wes Rowlands, be interviewed, listen to the nice things that you're saying to me, and how you envision me is because of the 8th wonder of the world. It's compounding and never leaving my commitment to being the best at what I do in these areas, specifically with work. Mm-hmm. I've seen so many people get into a industry, and when it gets tough, they leave and they jump back in and they bob and they weave. I've just stayed. There's been amazing years. There have been terrifying years. There's been so-so years. But the results that I'm achieving today and my company is achieving is because I never give up. I do hard things. And when you get to 21 years of being in an industry, those results start compounding and you find yourself in a level that you didn't think was possible 21 years ago. So I think that power of compounding is super important to think about. It's the consistency that I think a lot of people lack. I wasn't really as prepared. The only thing I would say for anybody that wants to build a company is 2 things. I'll talk about culture, I'll end with that, but I want to talk about the way that you treat people, because I think a superpower that I have, or that I have at my company, is people trip out when they meet me or when they realize that I'm the CEO of the business, because I'm just like you and I. Mm-hmm. I'm just like to me, I'm a normal dude, right? Like, and I try to treat people. I always remember how in businesses that I worked at, how I felt when somebody treated me a certain way. I remember working at businesses where the CEO's door was always closed. Yep. I was scared when he walked by. Mm-hmm. I remember how this processing manager talked to their person. And I feel like I've learned more working at companies of what not to do than what to do. Mm-hmm. So I think if there's anybody that's listening, no matter what business, no matter, I don't care if it's school, whatever it is that you're doing, think about how you like to be treated. And it's so simple to say, but if you genuinely treat people, whether it's your spouse, whether it's business, whether it's your kids, whatever it is, treat people the same way that you want to be treated, and things feel good. Mm-hmm. And you are the only one that control that. It doesn't matter how somebody else treats you. Always treat people the same way that you would want to be treated, right? What's that old saying? People will people forget what you say, but they never forget how you make them feel.
Yep.
And I will never forget that, right? Because I know, like when you give me a compliment, I can't wait to pay you back that compliment. But if you're like, yeah, this schmuck, I gotta have on my episode. You know what I mean? Like it's just different thinking.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's number one. And number two, culture is everything. They tie hand in hand. And there's so many guys on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn that are raw. They want to talk about culture, but you cannot have culture unless you are all about culture. And it starts at the top. It starts with me. You know, that gal Jess that I hired back in 2018, I'll never forget. It was like 6 months in, we were starting to grow more, and she's cleaning out the fridge on a Friday. It's like 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Like deep cleaning. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
She's like, the fridge needed to be cleaned. I'll never, it gives me goosebumps to think about, because like that's the epitome of the person you want at your organization, your company. Is there's no task beneath anyone. There's no task beneath me. If I have a sales loan officer that's struggling, give me your headset, dude. I'll talk to your client.
Yeah.
Put the CEO on the phone. But I think the culture and making sure that you're providing an environment where your staff and your employees love what they do and love where they work. It's not perfect. The mortgage industry, man, it's chaos. 40, 50, 60 hours a week plus of madness. But if you treat people with respect and appreciation, like when I'm working, before I started my company, I just want to feel appreciated.
Yeah.
I want to feel like the work I'm doing is going towards a greater good and I'm making a difference. So at our company, it's like, dude, I want to make sure that every single person feels what they're doing each day puts an impact to the organization. Then you do fun trips and fun contests. And you can do these things, but you can't just say you have culture unless you really, really, really are about that culture, if that makes sense.
100%, man. I mean, and I can tell everybody listening that you walk the walk. Like, as we both know, I had one of my best friend growing up. I called Kurt. He was dealing with addiction issues, and I know Kurt could speak some positivity into his life. Called up Kurt, called you up. You got on the phone with him a day later. You're running a huge business, and you did me a personal favor. Not even thinking it was a favor, just out of the kindness of your heart, like, I'm there for him, you know. And that meant a lot to me, man. So I know that you walk the walk. You have a hell of a story. You're writing the next chapter now. I'm incredibly impressed for whatever that's worth. Like, I admire you. I'm inspired by you, and I appreciate you taking the time today, man. I really love you. So thank you for coming on today.
Love you too, bro. I really appreciate the time. It was awesome.
Hell yeah, man.